Hello and welcome to the Fat Grip Podcast. I'm recording like a 2-minute bumper right here. I was ready to put out the episode yesterday. I just didn't feel well. And so I never got it out. And when I woke up in the middle of the night, I saw some pretty horrible news and I wanted to put it in, and then I just left the rest of the episode as is. But 8 LIV guys stranded in Dubai, right in the middle of the conflict in the Middle East. I listened to Caleb Surratt on an interview. It was really scary. I mean, there were bombs falling at hotels in Dubai, and it must have been really scary for those guys. So I'm glad everybody's okay. And they kept it quiet. Obviously, got 8 rich golfers in the middle of a war zone. We don't want to give away where they are, who they are, so anybody can ransom, kidnap, whatever it is. So they were pretty quiet about it, but they were able to get a bus. And the players were Lee Westwood, Lowry Cantor, Sam Horsfield, Thomas Dietrich, Tom McKibben, Lahiri, Caleb Surratt. And they were able to take a bus, get to Oman, and take another bus. And Jon Rahm used his charter private jet to greet them at the airstrip. And I can report now they are all safely, I think they're sleeping in Hong Kong right now, but they will be fine. LIV announced they did put some players on notice to sub in for 8 guys. So you might have got a chance to play on LIV. This could have been it if you were available. So I wanted to say that, and because at the end of the episode, I take a minute to just stop, pause, think about what's going on in the golf, and that just a month ago, a lot of the players that we like from multiple tours and we appreciate, they were there, and they could have been caught in this, and their families, and what it would mean for the game and everything. So I left that part in just to be real. And then I just want to update with this. Also, so East Coast time, it's midnight. I think Hong Kong kicks off. And other news, huge news. Luke Donald runs it back. For the 3rd time, he's going to be Europe's Ryder Cup captain. Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, we say here in New England. So, all right, Team Europe, we got you. Speaking of Ryder Cup, Jon Rahm, you probably saw his interview yesterday. I talk about it in the pod. I show some clips. I analyze it. I go into what I think the real motives were from the DP World Tour. I talk about 5 major invites came out of the golf world this weekend at some pretty small events. And I kind of line those up against AK and see hey, man, he should have got one. And brush through the tours around the world. So hope you enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you next time. Welcome to the Grip. A lot of news to get through today, but breaking overnight in Hong Kong is some pretty big LIV news regarding Jon Rahm. He finally spoke up about what's happening with the DP World Tour, right? A lot of rumors, a lot of fake outrage from fans, and a lot of people really not knowing what they're talking about in the media and content creators about Rahm. So this is regarding the fines he had to pay to keep a status with the DP World Tour, or else he will not be eligible for the Ryder Cup, which isn't this year. We got to remember, it's next year. That's when he needs to be eligible to play in the Ryder Cup. So here's the issue that Jon spoke about.
I don't like what they're doing currently with the contract they're having to sign. I don't like the conditions. They're asking me to play a minimum of 6 events, and they dictate where 2 of those have to be. Given also the fact that 2 years ago, I was asked to appeal the fine so they could figure this out and sort it out.
I mean, that is a serious deal here. Essentially, what he's not saying, and I think he was pretty stern about it, that's negotiating in the spotlight. The DP World Tour is exploiting Jon Rahm here, and he's not saying why. And here's why I believe it's happening. When I was doing a segment, I'm working on some content. It was creating LIV Golf, PGA Golf financials, right? Looking at it from a global level. It's a lot of work. I stopped doing it because the research was crazy, because I asked, why does the PIF invest in this? Nobody wants to lose all that money over and over.
And of course, that's everybody's fake outrage. Oh, Pib's dead. It's done. So I looked into the financials, and some things are creative. And it's important because it all comes into play in Jon Rahm's dispute. The PGA Tour is a financial backer of DP World Tour. And basically, it's not a set amount. They're covering their debt. But the payments on that debt must begin to be paid back with interest to the PGA Tour in 2028, 2 years from now. So what I was able to uncover was in their financial documents, because it's international, I don't know the word. If it was US, like, oh, they're a tax document. But either way, it's a public record. You can go find it. It's covered by plenty of outlets. So I'm not sure why they're not saying this. Just from the 2024, it's upwards of $30 million. So that 1 year, the PGA is going to cover their debt for $30 million, but this happened the entire length of their relationship, plus last year, this year, which it's not getting any better for them. So we're talking well over $100 million that will pay back. So how does this play into Jon Rahm? Well, the DP World Tour told Jon Rahm when this fine thing came out for playing, right? So if they play in a LIV event, if they teed up at LIV, and there just happens to be a DP World Tour event going on at the same time, they must pay a fine of $100,000, which is silly. So what Jon Rahm said back in January on a podcast, he's like, I'm negotiating with them. I'm not going to pay fines for events I would have never played anyways. I've never done it in my career. And the DP World Tour told Jon Rahm a couple of years ago, file an appeal because they're negotiating on friendly terms. But then all of a sudden, last month, we saw this statement comes out that these guys are going to pay their fines. They come back in, but they got to play a certain amount of DP World Tour events. So we didn't know what that was. Rahm revealed it, 6. So those guys paid back their debt. That sucks because for like Terrell Hatton and some of these other guys, they probably were fined for events they would have never played anyway. So Jon Rahm is taking a stand. I'm not going to play 6 events on the DP World Tour. I have no problem playing 4. I'll sign that today and I'll pay the debt. But you guys were the one that told me to appeal. But there's no longer negotiating if now you're forcing me to play 6 events and pay the whole fine. Where's negotiation? It's not fair. And the DP World Tour, I believe, is doing this because of the debt they owe to the PGA Tour and probably obviously other partners and vendors, because they know Jon Rahm sells tickets, gets viewership. So they're exploiting him by making him play in 6 events, added onto his LIV schedule. He's going to have to play in small market events because he's not going to get 6 out that works with the LIV schedule. And of course, it's going to drive the popularity, the revenue, the viewership, the sponsors involved. It's going to drive it up. Revenue opportunity for the DP World Tour. So obviously it doesn't take a genius to figure out why they're doing this, to get money, because they got to pay a debt that's due in 2 years. And the reason everything changed, I think, because we went from Jay Monahan to Roll-Up as far as it comes to the PGA Tour. And Roll-Up's taking a stance like we don't negotiate with terrorists. And I don't even mean that bad with LIV. I'm just using that phrase. That probably didn't come out right because I'm not anti-LIV or where they get their money. But so I think DP World Tour was instructed, boom, do this, get some money for him. We're not going to negotiate. The guys pay their fines or not. Jon Rahm will because he loves the game more. That's what they're betting on. Now, they don't have to solve it this year because it's not a Ryder Cup year. And Jon Rahm doesn't need to play any of those events. He wants to. He wants to play at least in the Spanish Open, and he will play 4 events, but he's not playing 6. He said it. Nope, not happening. If they cut it to 4, I'll pay him. Sign a deal today. So this is the first time he's really spoke out about the details of it. He's right. You can see a little bit of language where he doesn't think it's fair. And he's pretty adamant about it. So there's going to be some developments. I could see this getting taken out of context and speculation and all kinds of stuff this week. So it'll be fun to watch as far as golf content goes. Other LIV news, I personally find extremely unfair. Anthony Kim wins Adelaide. People start saying, oh, he's getting the Masters, the Open. I said it. And I know it's recency bias, but man, it's AK, right? And it would be great for the Open. And he's the kind of guy transcends golf, brings both golf communities together and people outside golf. Of course, he hasn't got an invite to the Masters or the Open. Other people are like, oh, no, bullshit. But let's look at this. Guys that are winning on the DP World Tour and the PGA Tour are getting invites to majors if they're winning in the last few weeks. And they're not big events. But there's only one way to measure an event next to an event, the OWGR. I don't believe in it, but that's the number they use to see what event is stronger and more challenging, right? Strength of field. LIV gets 23. So Anthony Kim 1 got 23 points, no invite to majors. New Zealand, the winner got 10 OWGR points on the Asian Tour this past weekend. Gets 10 points, but also gets an invite to the Open. LIV doubled that, more than doubled that. So Anthony kind of got screwed. Like, what's going on? I got 23 points. Why can't I get in there? Unfair. South African Open. Casey Jarvis, great kid. He wins. He gets 19 points. Strength of field, LIV Adelaide, 23 points. Casey Jarvis gets in the Masters and the Open. Not that fair. I didn't know everybody can do whatever they want, but everybody had no problem exploiting Anthony Kim and talking about him and covering him and using, his story to create content, get viewership, or whatever it was. These same people should be creating content, using their access to viewers to make some noise to the majors. That why isn't AK getting these same benefits? And if that's not enough, Alistair Doherty just won Korn Ferry Tour event, the Argentine Open in South America. He gets into the Open. And one thing I forgot to mention, in the South Africa Open, the top 3, there's 3 open spots they gave out. So AK's kind of getting screwed because the strength of field, LIV Adelaide, based on the OWGR, was much stronger than any of these events. And those events produced 5 major invites, I think. That's nuts. On the LIV Tour, Phil, it's going to be his 3rd event in a row missed. We don't know why, but I'm going to assume that he's going to probably not come back. Or if he does, he's not going to play. I'm just guessing, but he knows missing 3 events is going to almost be not quite impossible, but very difficult for him to stay out of the relegation zone, which was expanded for 2026. And I don't know what's going to happen. Phil's the guy that, he's the face of this event. Now, when the event happens in Hong Kong this week or in Adelaide, you don't actually miss Phil. No offense, though. The event goes on. You didn't miss Kepka or Reed when the event starts. That's just stuff for content creators and media to talk about, right? This red meat. But when the events start, you don't miss them. There's great golf. Didn't miss anybody in Adelaide. Nobody said, oh, where's Brooks Koepka? Not one bit. Where's Phil? Where's Leeward Westwood? Not at all. So Phil's going to be in trouble, and I hope everything's okay. It makes me think it's a medical thing, like a personal thing, and maybe not him. Maybe, God forbid, I know that Amy was diagnosed with cancer years ago, and they've been out there in the public and raising money and being vocal about it. Because if it was like Phil injured or Phil did something with all his financial bullshit, right? The gambling addiction he had, which sounds like he's over that, but he's also very politically and vocal about the stock market and investments. So the only way people in the world of leaking rumors haven't leaked anything with Phil, because it makes me think it's something big, sad, and medical. And out of respect, nobody leaked it. So I don't know what's going on with Phil. Wish him well, praying, God forbid, everything's okay. Lee Westwood returns. He was on injury for 2 weeks, and Wade Ormsby is going to replace Phil. So Liv's got the Triple Crown, Hong Kong, Singapore, and then South Africa. And what we saw in South Africa this weekend was that if you create the right energy with the right player, the fans there have the potential to really bring it. And that's what we want to see, because they keep talking about rivaling Adelaide. Of course, the South African Open was no Adelaide. There was good people there, but not a lot of people. But the people that were there really embraced the winner, Casey Jarvis, because it was his 2nd win on the DP World Tour. So he kicks Patrick Reed to the side. He's the new back-to-back winner on the DP World Tour. And he's from South Africa. So he wins his Open. And as a kid, he was a scorer volunteer at this event. And guess what? P. Reed was in the field. He dusted P. Reed. So Casey Jarvis gets the Masters invite, gets to go to the Open, but he got that crowd in it. So the back stretch on Sunday, the last 9 holes, nice galleries following him, but they showed that they have the ability. They're singing songs, they're screaming, they're yelling. It's humorous, it's passionate, but it showed that if LIV is modeling it, and we know they're selling tickets, South Africa LIV in a couple of weeks could be a banger. Could be a banger because this crowd went nuts for Casey Jarvis. There wasn't even a lot of people there. And Casey Jarvis embraced him. He was emotional and doing the fist pumps, and it was fun to watch. But I like this kid. He's a Sunshine Tour player. He's only had a few DP World Tour starts. And he's won on these mini tours, but now he's in the big leagues. He's won back-to-back. He's moved to number 80 in the world. But now he's got some money, some exemptions, and hopefully his schedule picks up and he plays more DP World Tour events because he can afford it. These guys in small markets that get invited from the mini tours to play, they can't go to Europe or around the world to play a DP World Tour event because it's costly. And if they don't make the cut, they're broke. So good luck to Casey Jarvis. I can't wait to see him at the Masters. Also in New Zealand, Daniel Hillier, he won the New Zealand Open, and he's a native of New Zealand. And somebody from New Zealand hasn't won their own Open in 10 years. But he was already exempt for Royal Birkdale for the Open Championship. So second place was Ripper player Lucas Herbie. He came in second. He shot 62, I think, on Sundays. Crazy. So he'll get that exemption because Daniel was already exempt, and he's getting to go to Royal Birkdale, and he's happy. And he came in second. So maybe AK and him can have words. Maybe he can give it to Anthony. It doesn't work like that. We keep going around the world in Argentina. I said before, Alistair Doherty wins the Argentine Open Korn Ferry Tour event. And why we're mentioning it, I don't mention Korn Ferry a lot. It's because 1, he gets in the Open. 2, this guy is a journeyman, and he was in a hard accident a couple of years ago. He was lucky to be alive, and like a week later, he went and qualified for the Open. But he keeps missing his PGA card, but like 1 stroke multiple times over the years. So he's run out of money where he's had to take a job as a caddy. And he lost belief in himself, serious mental health stuff. He went to dark places. He had to give up the game. And then the guys that do the Barstool Sports golf podcast, one of the guys gave him $50,000. They invested in him. They believed in him. And then, a couple of years, he's out there grinding, not quite getting where he has to be. But he finally wins for the first time at a professional level in Argentina. And so he conquered the demons of the darkness that capture his mind and his thoughts on and off the courts by missing by 1 stroke, or think about all, the money and all the things that weigh on a journeyman. Can I keep my dream alive? So he also came in second in Abacoa on the Korn Ferry Tour to start off the year. So he's on his way to earning a PGA card. He did miss the last 3 events he didn't make the cut in the last 3 events. But anyways, I thought it was worth mentioning, and that's great that Alistair made a little money, get some world ranking points, some exemptions, and on his way, hopefully, to get a tour card coming up for next year. And then here in the U.S., I know you watch poor Shane Lowry getting devoured by the bear trap at PGA National and the Palm Beaches. It was a horrible collapse. Nico Echevarria wins it, his 3rd win. His wife on Friday, while he's playing, was signing the paperwork for a new house, like right down the road from the course. So he was happy. Great kid. It's good to be him. Just got married a few months ago, just bought a house, just won. But Shane Lowry collapses on the back 9, back-to-back double bogeys in the water twice. Horrible swings. He said it. And I think what he showed was he wasn't in his head. He talked about how excited he was for his daughter to see him win. So this is what happens when you lose your attention in the moment at any level in golf, whether you're a high school golfer playing in a scramble, you're supposed to lose attention, be drinking. But at any level of golf, you have to focus, be in the moment. You can't be thinking ahead. And he probably was like, hey, I'm up by 3 with just a few holes to go. My little daughter's going to come out in the green. I'm excited because he said that. And that creeped in his head. He made a mistake, and then there's mistakes compounded, and he starts thinking about it. He started getting mad. Anyways, love the guy. Lowry, good luck. But that's the 5th time he hasn't been able to hold on to a lead on a Sunday. And what do we got last? Oh, Brooks Koepka, top 10. Good for Brooks, man. Showing some form. Shot 65 on Sunday. This will be good for world ranking points. This will be good as he's working his way to get into signature events because Bay Hill, Arnold Palmer's this weekend. He's not playing because he didn't qualify. But Joel Damon is playing. And Joel Damon is a guy who's battled the mental health demons. And he's a guy who lost his card because the PGA shrunk the amount of pros they're taking this year. So he was out of the top 100. So he got in on an exemption for the waste management. He's just kind of maximizing the opportunities he's getting. So I think he's only gotten 4 starts, the sponsor exemption, but his play is speaking for itself. So at Farmers, he top 10, which allowed him to get into this past weekend to play at the Cognizant at Palm Beach National, and he finished top 10 again. So now he's accumulated enough in the what is called the Aon Swing 10 or top 10 to be playing in a signature event this coming week at Bay Hill. So good for Joel Damon. Huge fan of that guy. PGA this week, also opposite field event, Puerto Rico Open, and playing in that is John Daly II. John Daly's son is going to be playing on the PGA Tour in a sponsor exemption. That will be fun to watch. Lastly, just want to take a moment for myself, if anybody really cares or still listening, is to just think about what's happening in the Gulf in the Middle East right now. Because if you just think a month ago, Patrick Reed was flying through Qatar, Bahrain, Dubai. LIV Tour was just in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, and we're laughing and enjoying golf. Everybody's living peacefully and all that. And I'm not talking about politics and what side you're on, but now there's bombs killing people in those very peaceful countries in the Gulf, and they're caught in the middle of something. And, you know, I think you just got to consider ourselves lucky wherever we are in the world that we get to live with this freedom to talk and joke about golf and play golf. And so the people of the Gulf region in the Middle East, the professionals that live in Dubai, my heart goes out to you. And we definitely hope that this conflict has an end soon. But we got to put in perspective that had this conflict started a month ago, all the sport we love would be wrapped up right in the middle of it. And who knows what would have happened to the golfers in the sport we love getting stuck in the middle of a war for just playing golf and trying to express their freedom in their own way. So be safe. I'll see you next time.